Welcome to the final day of Sierra Club's Earth Week of Action. Today we are focused on International Workers' Day. Our theme here is There's Work to be Done. Here we have developed a suite of materials and activities that share the context behind why building back better with labor unions matters as we pursue the achievable goal of safer communities and a livable planet for everyone. I'm your host, Derrick Figures, Labor and Economic Justice Director here at the Sierra Club. Let me start by saying thank you for joining us as we showcase some of the incredible and difficult work that my colleagues here at the Sierra Club and in the labor movement are involved in. To begin, I thought it would be useful to highlight examples of the challenges that some of our most vulnerable communities face every day. Some of Sierra Club's most important work comes from working in coalition with our partners, many of whom are labor unions, in identifying and creating meaningful and tangible solutions to these challenges. Right now, we are joined by my colleague, Holly Biglow. Holly is from Washington, D.C., where she works for the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees as a legislative specialist. Her portfolio includes, but is not limited to, collective bargaining, workforce development, gender issues, and paid leave. Holly also sometimes works during political cycles as a political organizer. So she's what we call in Washington circles a political hack. And then I asked Holly and many of the folks who are participating in this interview process, I asked her, what were some of her hobbies and interests, and her interests are ice cream and antiquing. So it's really cool. Holly, take it away for us.
Yes. Hi, Derrick. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to you and the Sierra Club about the importance of unions. As you said, I'm Holly Biglow. I'm with AFSCME. AFSCME represents about 1.4 public and private sector workers. Our members work in various occupations across the country, from nurses, EMTs, childcare providers, sanitation workers, to correction officers. They are the frontline workers that have risked their lives to continue to provide essential public services throughout the pandemic. In terms of the environment, our members are the engineers, the scientists, operators, maintenance workers at public utilities. They make sure that communities have safe and affordable drinking water and that wastewater and sewage is properly treated. They also work at parks and recreations to make sure that our communities are beautiful and safe.
Fantastic. It took me a second to get the mute button cleared up. I'm just trying to listen. So one of the questions I had for you, Holly, was focused on labor law reform, right? The way I framed it is, from your organization's perspective, where do we begin our economic recovery towards a cleaner climate where all communities can thrive, and what role does labor law reform play in making this a reality?
Yeah, so with the American Rescue Plan, we are on the right track to rebuilding our economy and getting back on track. The American Rescue Plan included $360 billion for state and local aid. A lot of state and local governments were facing budget cuts. So that would have led to cutting back on public services, as well as laying off and furloughing public sector workers. So, with that piece of legislation, that was tremendously important and helpful with our community, and with Biden's job plan, that's another important step to help our economy get back on track. It will create a lot of millions of new jobs, both clean energy jobs as well as regular infrastructure jobs that's necessary. So I think that we are on track. Okay. What was the rest of the question?
Well, actually, you're kind of segueing into another question I wanted to ask, and that was about a very important piece of work, legislation that you focus on, which is the PRO Act, but also the Public Service Freedom to Negotiate Act. And because AFSCME represents public and private sector employees, Could you tell us a little more about both those bills? I mean, I know they're almost similar, but I just wanted to kind of have an opportunity for you to kind of discuss the importance of labor law reform legislation that's pending and what that means for frontline workers like you represent.
Exactly. So, yes, both of these bills, the PRO Act and the Public Service Freedom to Negotiate Act, provides workers the right to form a union and have a voice on the job. The PRO Act specifically is geared towards private sector workers. It would strengthen the NLRA so that private sector workers can organize and collectively bargain. It increases penalties for employers that violate workers' rights. It strengthens support for workers who suffer retaliation. It addresses misclassification of employees, etc. So that bill, it's geared to strengthen collective bargaining right that currently exists for private sector workers. The Public Service Freedom to Negotiate Act is for sorry, I think I got my public and private mixed up. Anyways, Public Service Freedom to Negotiate Act is for public sector workers, not the private sector workers. It would establish a minimum nationwide standard for collective bargaining rights that states would have to provide to public sector workers. Currently, not all states allow public sector workers to organize. And some states only allow certain sectors to organize, like teachers or first responders. So this bill would establish a floor, an across the board floor for collective bargaining.
That's helpful, and I think one of the things that I think the general public sometimes misunderstands is what public service means in terms of employees or workers. And so it's important that you make that distinction. And so I really appreciate that. And one other question I wanted to ask was, like the types of workers you represent, because I know you ran off a list of folks, and I wanted to ask whether you represent sanitation workers, like garbage workers, right? Like garbage people, right? Folks who take out our trash and service the landfills that the trash goes to, and to some extent recycling centers. Those folks are also AFSCME represents the Memphis sanitation workers too, right? I mean, is that correct? And can you tell me a little bit about, and for those of you who may not know, the Memphis sanitation workers were on strike in the 60s. I think it was 1968 when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis. And you guys, your folks were there because Dr. King was there protesting on their behalf, if I'm not mistaken. Do you want to kind of get into that a little bit in terms of just that history? Not too deep, but just, I want to.
Yeah, sure. No problem. So you're right. In 1968, Black sanitation workers went on strike in Memphis, Tennessee. At that time, they were underpaid. They worked extremely long hours, and their equipment was they used very bad, poor quality equipment. So in fact, 2 sanitation workers were killed by their trash trucks because they malfunctioned and crushed 2 sanitation workers at the time. So the sanitation workers went on strike to demand better wages, treatment, and work conditions. The city did not recognize them and their demands. And so that's when AFSCME came down and sort of stepped in to talk to the city, to have the city recognize the union that the sanitation workers were forming. And so, that strike went on for about more than a month. But eventually the city recognized the workers' union. And so it demonstrates that it was a fight for both economic and racial justice. And so, unions have a history of doing that.
Thanks, Holly. And for those of you who may not be aware, it's also important to know, I guess it's important to note, I mean, I think sometimes it's just familiarity is helpful. And so for all of those those civil rights protest photos that we are so familiar with. The I am a man placards or signs were often used as protest symbols that we recognize today.
Exactly. Yeah.
One more question, Holly, and this is kind of a softball question. It's really about the benefits of labor union members in communities, and also how that, and also demographics, right? In terms of people of color and women, and because of your work responsibilities in terms of gender equality, I'd love to hear a little more about what union representation means for women in the workplace, because women represent more people in the workplace than men at this point in our lives and in the country's history. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that, and also what that means for what union representation means for communities at large, in terms of folks who, when there's union households in a particular community, what that means in terms of stability and those types of pieces.
Great. Well, just off the top, our members, they're serving their communities. So the communities are very important to AFSCME members. A lot of our members live in the communities where they work. So they're fully connected and invested in their communities and neighbors, et cetera. In terms of gender, unions are, in my mind, they symbolize equality in terms of equal wages, equal time off, equal treatment. When you have a collective bargaining agreement, it does not differentiate between how you look, your gender, your height, whatever. Everything is equal. It's based on the job and being able to do the job. Unfortunately, women in general face a lot of disparities in the workplace in terms of wages. I mean, we hear predominantly about wages, women being paid, 80 cents less than men for the same job title or category or function, which is awful. It's 2021, and women are still sometimes getting paid less than men for the same job. So, labor's unions address that as well. But also in terms of treatment, women often get treated poorly if they need time off because of life-changing situations, if they have to take care of kids or an elder parent, or something comes up that they need to address, or that might take them away from the workplace. Sometimes they have to figure out, am I going to lose my job because I need to take time off to address this, or will my job be there? Unions provide that security with paid time off that they can use, so that they can take care of additional things that might come up in life. So that's another benefit of a union. I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. I got a little I forgot how to use the mute button. Anyway, no, that's very helpful, Holly, and I have a lot of experience too, just having worked at it, the American Federation of Teachers. I did a lot of gender equality work, particularly on the pay equity side, and I was very active in the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act bill that got through Congress during Obama's administration. So I'm very familiar with that, and it's very important to kind of raise as an issue, just thinking from perspective of the number of women in the workforce, and as we move into this clean energy economy conversation, the idea that there will be men in these jobs as a majority, that is not the truth, right? Women in non-traditional occupations will definitely be something that we have to further examine and further support, because women are leading the workforce at this point in terms of the numbers. So that said, I think we're done, Holly. I think we'll wrap up with that. And thank you so much for your time, and thank you, Sierra Club, for allowing us to have this opportunity to have a conversation with AFSCME and talk about labor law reform with Holly Biglow.
Yes, thank you.
This is great.
Thanks again.